All right, let's get back to our top story this hour. Now, the Philippines' former President Rodrigo Duterte has made his first appearance at the International Criminal Court after his arrest earlier this week. On his way to The Hague, Duterte posted a video message saying he will accept responsibility for his government's actions.
Whatever happened in the past, I will be the front of our law enforcement and the military. I said this already, that I will protect you and I will be responsible for everything.
All right, we can speak now to Rodrigo Duterte's former chief legal counsel and spokesperson, Salvador Panelo. Mr. Panelo, good to have you on the program with us. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. I understand that you're in The Hague right now. Can you tell us more about how the situation with Rodrigo Duterte's case is unfolding?
Let me correct you there. I'm not in The Hague. I'm still in the Philippines.
Okay. What do you know about the case and how it's unfolding?
Well, what I gathered from one or two lawyers there is that the preliminary hearing will start today.
What more details do you know, and can you share about Rodrigo Duterte's arrest?
Sorry again, please.
What can you tell us about the circumstances surrounding Rodrigo Duterte's arrest? I understand he was returning from Hong Kong to the Philippines when it took place. What more can you tell us?
Yes. He arrived from Hong Kong, and upon landing, he was arrested without a warrant of arrest. And then he was whisked to the Villamore Air Base and detained there illegally. And several hours later, they barged him into the room where he was taking his dinner and was forcibly taken to the plane. From our point of view, that was an illegal arrest, that was an illegal detention, and that was kidnapping. That warrant of arrest they were showing came from a spurious source, which is the International Criminal Court. As far as this country is concerned, it has no jurisdiction. In fact, this government, through our president, has been saying that ICC has no jurisdiction. That's why we cannot understand why suddenly it has reversed its stand upon a request of the Interpol, which was requested by ICC. ICC that has no jurisdiction, requesting an agent, Interpol, to request the Philippine government to effect the arrest. And this government has been saying that we have a legal system that is robust, that we are functioning legal system, and that this ICC has no jurisdiction, has effected the arrest upon the request of an agent of an ICC that has no jurisdiction. This is illegal. Under our law, a warrant of arrest issued by another jurisdiction, a foreign country, has to pass through a local court to validate that warrant of arrest. In the same way that under our extradition law, when a particular country wants a Filipino citizen plucked out of this country to face trial in the other country, it has to pass through the regular courts. Under the statute of the ICC, the same provision comes out that when ICC issues a warrant of arrest, that warrant of arrest has to be referred to the state member, and it has to pass through a judicial authority. And that never was done because he was immediately arrested, immediately detained, and kidnapped, forcibly flown out of the country. That is why I filed a petition for a writ of habeas corpus in behalf of the daughter of the former president, asking the court to produce and for this government, the government of the Philippines, to bring back the former president and to explain to the court why they did such illegal actions against the former president in violation of the law, even in violation of the statute, Rome Statute, and in violation of our Constitution.
So this arrest comes 3 years after Duterte's term ended. Why do you think that he was arrested now? And why do you think the proper legal channels that you detailed for us, him appearing before a local court first, why do you think those legal channels were not properly followed?
Simple, because the ultimate goal is 2020 presidential elections. The political enemies of the former president want them eliminated. VP Sara, the vice president, the daughter of the former president, is the strongest presidential candidate in 2020. She has to be eliminated. That's why they filed impeachment charges against her. If she is convicted under the impeachment process, then she can no longer run for a public position because she will be perpetually prohibited from running. Not only that, they filed criminal charges against her, thinking probably that if impeachment fails, they can always file the criminal charges and jail her and cripple her if she runs for the presidency. Now, former President Duterte has the largest following in the history of this country of millions of followers. He will be supporting the daughter. And so, the political enemies who are now holding power in this country have to eliminate him as well. So for 3 years, they have all the opportunity to file charges in this country before our own courts. It did not. This government did not. And it has to surrender this president to another foreign institution that has no jurisdiction over this country and over the citizens of this country. When it has repeatedly said that ICC has no jurisdiction. So it's all political.
Do you think other officials from Duterte's government could become the next targets of the ICC?
Oh, definitely. They have said so. The next target would be a senator now, Senator Ronaldo Bato de la Rosa, and another former PNP chief of the Philippine National Police, General Albayambe. So 2 of them are in the list. And the vice president, Sara Duterte, would come in next because her name was also included in the complaint after there was a break in the unity between President Marcos Jr. and her a few months ago.
Duterte called the arrest warrant unjustified because his war on drugs restored peace to the nation. What are your thoughts on that argument that he made?
What's that again? What's the argument about the warrant?
Right. Duterte says the arrest warrant is unjustified because his war on drugs restored peace to the nation. Do you think that's a valid argument?
That is a valid argument, but that is not why we're saying that the warrant of arrest is unlawful. What we're saying is the warrant of arrest comes from the International Criminal Court that has no jurisdiction. It cannot issue a warrant of arrest and effect it in a country of which it has no jurisdiction. That is what we're saying. The matter of whether the former president is guilty of whatever crimes it has in mind, that should be settled in the Philippine courts because we have our own legal system. What the government did is to surrender sovereignty and political territorial integrity because the primary function of a government and the president is to serve and to protect the people, protect the rights of the citizens, protect its sovereignty. But what it did, it surrendered, instead of protecting, it surrendered a citizen to another country. In other words, it went against its own foreign policy by the excuse that the Interpol has requested. But the Interpol precisely has no authority to effect arrest. And it's only doing such because it was requested by the ICC, which has no jurisdiction. If ICC has no jurisdiction, necessarily the agent cannot have jurisdiction because it cannot rise above the principle.
You weren't
Moreover, it is only a request. If it is a request, this country is not compelled to grant it. It can deny. Because any request made by any foreign country in violation of the Constitution and in violation of the rights of the person sought to be arrested is definitely illegal.
You worked with Duterte for a number of years. How would you assess his
5 years.
contribution to stabilizing the situation in Philippines?
Oh, when before he assumed the presidency, the illegal drug trafficking was so vast, it has affected a generation. The families have been dysfunctional. Criminality was at its highest rating. And then the economy is so bad, and there was no development in the infrastructure. Many sectors in society were all crying for reforms, and former President Duterte responded to all that. He stopped criminality, reduced it to the barest minimum. People could walk the streets without fear or apprehension. Prior to his assumption, there were rapes, there were robberies, there were violence inflicted to civilians walking on the streets. Prior to his assumption to the presidency, there were factories of illegal drugs being manufactured in this country, being pushed and being sold on the street, and even assisted by crooked policemen. All of this he has stopped. That is why, if you notice, during his 6-year term, he was the only president who received astronomical survey rating consistently from the time he assumed it until the end of his term and until now.
Mr.
It
Pinello,
only means that the people have accepted all the legacies that he has left behind. That's why they love him. Now, all over the country, people are rising. They're organizing rallies every day, every night. And I'm afraid that if this government does not bring back the former president, we will be having a political upheaval just like the previous many decades, 4 decades ago.
you know, we really haven't seen much of a reaction to this arrest and the response there in the Philippines that you talked about coming from the West. Why do you think that is? Because you would think the arrest of a former head of state and that former head of state being brought to The Hague would be quite significant, and we really haven't had much of a response from the West. Why do you think that is?
There is no response from whom?
From the Western world. Normally, something like this you would think would make big news in the West.
I don't know about that, but from what I know is that if they see what is happening in this country, then appropriate responses will be made from them.
Talking about the ICC, it was back in 2020, the court said it was opening an investigation into U.S. war crimes in Afghanistan. But after President Trump imposed sanctions against the court, that inquiry was stopped. Why do you think the ICC made that decision?
Simple, because it is afraid of the United States. The United States is the biggest contributor in funds. Without the funds, it cannot operate.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Rodrigo Duterte's former chief legal counsel and spokesperson, Salvador Pinello. Mr. Pinello, thank you. Thanks for joining us and speaking with us about this today.
Thank you also for having me.